The spoilers for Beyond the Gates airing on Tuesday, March 17th, center on Eva's desperate need for her father's help. Meanwhile, Donnie gives in to Andre, and Cod has a few warnings for Isaiah. The main points to remember are these: Eva turns to Ted for help, Shanice leans on her and for support. Donnie gives in because of Andre, and Cod has several warnings for Isaiah. A successful charity event does not always leave behind light. Sometimes, what lingers after the applause and the photographs taken in front of the ribbon cutting is only the faint burnt smell of ambition pushed too far. The fingerprint of someone who touched too many things at once and believed they could wash it all away with a polished speech. The free clinic on Phoenix Street has just opened. The new sign is still shining. The flowers have not yet had time to wilt. And yet this week, the atmosphere around Eva has changed color like a sudden low-pressure system sliding over Fairmont Crest. Just days ago, Eva stood there with a pride so strong it was almost arrogance, convinced that her mother had made the entire community nod in support of a righteous cause. Convinced that Leslie had accomplished what others could not. Today, Eva is in cleanup mode. As if everything exploded right behind the grand opening and she is the only one still clear-headed enough to gather the shattered pieces before they cut into the flesh of both mother and daughter. Eva's cleanup work is not about sweeping away scattered trash. It is about collecting the consequences of a chain reaction disaster, the kind of fallout Leslie often creates in a way that feels both accidental and deliberate. Only to walk away from the scene with the expression of someone who always believes she is right. There are signs that Leslie moved too quickly down a path she drew for herself, and this time that path may lead not merely to arguments or whispered gossip among the elite, but to something far more serious, something that could touch the clinic's reputation, the newly praised funding, and perhaps even documents, figures, and signatures. Leslie persuaded too many people in too short a time with a tone far too confident, and when trust is built at such speed, it can collapse just as fast. Eva realizes this the moment congratulations turn into suspicious glances, the moment appointment requests become cold messages, the moment donors begin demanding transparency, and the moment several figures who once appeared to stand on the same side suddenly vanish from sight as though they had never existed at all. There is an unmistakable sense that Leslie is trapped in the very knot she tied herself, and if Eva does not clean it up, no one will. Because no one wants to touch something that might stain their hands. The most frightening part is that Eva cannot be sure this is only an accident, or whether it is a revenge scheme that has backfired. Leslie has always loved turning other people's lives into a chessboard, and the Phoenix Clinic, despite its humanitarian image, may simply be a new piece on that board, a way for her to stand taller, appear more often, and force those who once looked down on her to owe her something. If Leslie is building a house, if she is sinking deeper into projects that make people wonder where the money is coming from, if she has borrowed the goodwill of the community to shield her own private motives, then all it would take is one wrong invoice, one furious contractor, one dissatisfied employee, or one rival lying in wait for everything to be dragged into the light. Eva can feel her anger rising layer by layer. She is angry at the people circling around, waiting for a chance to disgrace her mother. She is angry at those who smiled and raised their glasses last week, but now look at her as though she is a crack in the wall. But most of all, she is angry at Leslie herself, because as much as Eva wants to believe her mother is merely strong rather than toxic, she still has to admit deep down that Leslie has a habit of rushing forward with the arrogance of someone who thinks she will never have to pay the price. And this time, Eva may be the one forced to pay it for her. That is exactly why Eva has no choice but to turn to Ted. Not because she is unintelligent, not because she lacks the courage to stand in the middle of the storm, but because some consequences cannot be solved by willpower or toughness alone. If Leslie's trouble has crossed into legal territory, public image, and the power networks of Fairmont Crest, then Ted is one of the very few people able to pull strings that Eva has no right to touch. Ted has status. He has respect. More importantly, he has doors already open to him simply because his name carries weight. Eva hates admitting that. She hates the feeling of lowering herself to ask for help, hates having to go to a man whom, deep down, she fears her mother may once have tried to draw in or exploit. But the harder Eva tries to handle everything alone, the more she sees doors slamming shut in her face, and her pride is forced to adjust, not because she is weak, but because she is beginning to understand that if she clings to her dignity too stubbornly, she will drag the entire clinic down with her. Eva's inner conflict becomes even more brutal when she realizes Ted cannot simply help without being pulled into danger himself. Ted may be a father who wants to protect his daughter from scandal, but he is also a man living under obligations, a man with a reputation to preserve and battles he is not allowed to lose. If Ted steps in to shield Leslie, he risks making himself look like an accomplice in the eyes of the public, or at the very least like someone covering up for her. If Ted turns his back, Eva will understand that it is the sensible choice, but at the same time she will still feel abandoned. As though every promise about family and responsibility only matters when there is no scent of disgrace attached to it. Eva comes to Ted with the posture of someone both pleading for help and issuing a test, like a person standing at the edge of a cliff and wanting to know who will take her hand, and how tightly. She needs Ted, but she also wants to see the limits of Ted, so she can understand exactly what kind of world she lives in, one where family bonds may be negotiable. Behind all of this, Leslie remains the source of an energy that makes everything even more chaotic. She may truly be facing an accident, a perfectly timed slip that sent her plans spiraling out of control, or a personal scandal that erupted like a match hitting gasoline. But it is equally possible that Leslie deliberately pushed everything to the edge, believing that the community's support for the clinic would become her armor. Leslie is the kind of person who believes that if she stands beneath the light of righteousness, then the darkness will disappear on its own. She is used to turning criticism into fuel, used to turning other people into villains so that she herself can stand in the position of victim or savior. And it is precisely that habit that terrifies Eva, because once Leslie feels cornered, she may react by dragging other people down with her, including her own daughter. Eva can already see in the smallest signs that her mother is not merely in trouble, but may also be preparing another act of revenge to redirect public attention. And if that move backfires, the fallout will no longer belong to Leslie alone. While Ted is drawn into Eva and Leslie's whirlwind, Shannis turns to Monica in a move that feels both instinctive and strategic. Shannis is usually the kind of person who can remain steady through expertise and composure, but this week that composure has been worn down by an unease she cannot quite name. Monica approved of Ted, and that approval once felt like a seal of reassurance, proof that Ted was not the kind of man who would hurt Shannis for no reason. Yet Shannis understands that approval does not mean safety. Some relationships do not collapse for lack of love. They collapse because of everything that clings to them from the outside: scandal, family obligations, secrets that must be protected. Shannis needs Monica not only for comfort, but to see reality through more seasoned eyes, now that Ted is being drawn into Eva and Leslie's story. Shannis herself could be reduced to a secondary figure in a war that is not hers, or worse, turned into a tool others use to manipulate Ted. Shannis cannot say those fears directly to Ted because she is afraid of becoming controlling, afraid of becoming the voice that makes him feel judged at the very moment he is under the greatest pressure. But she is not naive enough to believe that silence will protect her. With her experience and subtle understanding, Monica becomes the one person Shannis can lean on with those heavy questions. Shannis needs an aunt who will listen, but more deeply, she needs an ally who will stand on her side if everything begins to slide off course. She may have already noticed an unsettling detail in Ted's response to the crisis, a blind spot Ted himself does not recognize. Perhaps Shannis sees hesitation in Ted that is not just about fear of scandal, but about some thread connecting him to Leslie from the past. A thread that makes every one of his decisions carry the scent of guilt and responsibility. Janice needs Monica to confirm that her instincts are not simply irrational jealousy, that feeling unsafe in the relationship does not mean she is weak, but that she is reading danger before it becomes disaster. And through Monica's wisdom, Janice may receive advice that does not merely soothe, but prepares her. Hold firm to your boundaries, hold firm to your sense of self. And do not let love turn you into someone forced to defend herself while other people's storms sweep through. On another front, Donnie is playing an emotional game against herself as she gives in to Andre. That surrender is not simply a matter of softening. It feels more like a door opening at the exact moment Donnie is too exhausted from too many battles to build another wall, and Andre steps through it when she no longer has the strength to stop him. Donnie may still have feelings. She may still carry memories that make her heart weaken even while reason warns her otherwise. But she may also be hiding a weakness, a vulnerability that, if exposed, would cost her the upper hand with both her family and the enemies circling nearby. Giving into Andre may be a decision of the heart, or it may be a survival move, a way to buy time, buy temporary peace, buy an ally at a moment when she fears isolation. The bitter truth is that Donnie fully understands this surrender could become the beginning of a new mistake. She knows she is standing at a fragile boundary between reconciliation and self-betrayal. And in a world where everyone has motives, Donnie cannot stop herself from wondering whether Andre truly wants to walk through the wreckage with her, or whether he is only waiting for the moment she reveals weakness so he can seize the advantage. At the same time, God is sending warnings to Isaiah like the urgent ringing of a bell in a dark hallway. God emphasizes again and again the reasons why Isaiah should stay away from Eva and Leslie, and her determination does not come only from a sense of protection. It may also come from old wounds, from a moment when God saw Leslie destroy someone and still walk away like the victor. God does not want Isaiah to become the next victim. She does not want him to turn his trust into a noose around his own neck. But Kat's motives are not entirely pure either. Personal feelings may be woven into her reaction. She may not be reacting only to Leslie, but also to Eva as the kind of person Kat finds difficult to tolerate, someone who always believes she is right. Someone who believes she can save her mother through loyalty, and in doing so pulls other people into the spiral. Kat knows something Isaiah does not. It may be a piece of Leslie's past, a trace of old revenge plots, or a detail proving that the Phoenix Clinic is not merely a charitable effort, but also a stage for something more sinister. Kat does not reveal everything, because doing so would mean opening a war, and Kat understands that war would only make Eva strike back by tearing into everything, including the truth itself. As usual, Isaiah chooses to rely on instinct. His instinct tells him Eva is a good person. He sees in Eva not only pride, but someone trying to survive beneath the shadow cast by her mother. He believes Eva does not want to become Leslie, and that belief is exactly what makes him ignore Kat's warnings. But Isaiah is not without fear. His fear lies in the possibility that he could be wrong, and if he is wrong, the cost would not be only his heart, but also his reputation, his work, perhaps even his safety. Isaiah stands between two women as though caught between two opposing prophecies. On one side is Kat, who understands Leslie's toxicity too well. On the other is Eva, sweating as she tries to clean up the damage while still holding onto her dignity. And in the moment Isaiah chooses to trust Eva, he is not only choosing emotion, he is choosing to step into a battlefield. If Leslie truly is in trouble because a revenge scheme has backfired, then anyone close to Eva could be dragged down with her. Kat fears exactly that, and her fear turns into anger, because she cannot pull Isaiah away from something he is willingly running toward. All of these storylines twist together around one shared thread: image and power. The Phoenix Clinic is a new light, but that light also casts a longer shadow, a place where those eager to bring Leslie down need only one mistake to turn charity into fraud, a speech into a performance, and Eva from a proud young woman into an accomplice. Ted is trapped between the duty of being a father and the duty of protecting his name. Shanice is trapped between love and self-respect, between wanting to trust and wanting to feel safe. Donnie is trapped between softness and survival. Cod is trapped between protection and obsession. Isaiah is trapped between instinct and danger. The more people are pushed into a corner, the more easily negative reactions will surface, and those reactions will become fuel for someone else's scheme. And at the center of it all, Eva is beginning to understand a cruel truth. Cleaning up Leslie's mess means touching everything she has tried to avoid and facing the possibility that her mother is not simply in trouble, but is the source of the trouble. She wants to save her mother, but saving Leslie may mean setting herself on fire. She wants to keep Isaiah out of danger, but keeping him close may only pull him deeper in. She wants Ted's help, but the more she asks for it, the smaller she feels in the shadow of his power, and that leaves her both angry and ashamed. Eva is being forced to correct her own pride not by becoming obedient, but by accepting that sometimes strength means admitting you cannot control everything. Yet that acceptance does not make her lighter. It makes her sharper, colder, because she is beginning to consider difficult choices she never dared to imagine before. If Ted chooses to help, he will likely impose conditions, and those conditions may cut directly into the pride of both Leslie and Eva. If Ted chooses not to help, Eva will have to find another path, and that path may lead her to sacrifice something of her own in exchange for the silence of those hunting the scent of scandal. Shanice, after listening to Monica's advice, may no longer be willing to remain on the sidelines, and one wrong move from her could be enough to turn her into a target in the war Leslie created. Donnie, in the moment she gave in to Andre, may already have handed him an opening into the weakness she has tried to hide, and once someone holds that weakness, every future choice begins to feel less like freedom and more like coercion. The more Cot warns, the more she risks being seen as a troublemaker, and when people do not want to hear the truth, they punish the one speaking it. As for Isaiah, if he continues defending Eva, he will have to prove that his faith in her is not blindness, and in trying to prove that, he may do things that make Cot barely recognize him anymore. Fairmont Crest always looks beautiful in daylight, but weeks like this reveal that beauty as nothing more than a coat of paint covering a structure already cracked underneath. A clinic opens, a speech is praised, and immediately afterward comes a pile of consequences that forces people to choose sides. No gunshots are necessary, no storm is required. All it takes is one secret pulled from a drawer, one signature in the wrong place, one motive misunderstood, and charity becomes a battlefield. And as Eva steps deeper into the work of cleaning up after Leslie, she begins to realize that the most terrifying thing is not the enemy outside waiting to bring mother and daughter down, but the possibility that Leslie herself may choose revenge over repentance, may choose to burn everything down rather than bow her head. If that moment comes, Eva will have to decide whether she is still the daughter willing to protect her mother at any cost, or whether she is finally the woman brave enough to cut herself free before the spiral swallows Ted, Shanice, Isaiah, and even herself. That choice is moving closer by the hour, like footsteps in a hallway no one can see, but everyone can feel, because even in silence, conspiracy still has a pulse of its own.